Abaisai, there is a mitzvah in Parshas Vayelech, the last mitzvah in the Torah.
Have you showed the camera?
Is it on?
I don't know. It's right on.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, yeah.
The mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah, writing a Sefer Torah. Now let's take a look at Gemara Menachos, in the middle of the Amud. The line starts with the word Abba.
Abba, Amar Abba.
Yeah, Abba. See the line starts with Abba?
Mm-hmm.
Amar Rav Gidol Amar Rav. The Ilam sees?
Yeah.
Amar Rav Gidol Amar Rav. Shmuel, you see the place? The line starts with Abba. It's
Middle of the page?
yeah, a little bit past the middle.
לוקח ספר תורה מן השוק?
Yeah. Halakeach Sefer Torah min hashuk. Someone who didn't write a Sefer Torah. He didn't commission someone to write for him. He went and bought a ready-made Sefer Torah. Halakeach Sefer Torah min hashuk kechaytif mitzvah min hashuk. It's as if he grabbed a mitzvah from the market. He didn't do it himself. He went and bought it from the market, a ready-made Sefer Torah. Rashi explains. Rashi says, "Hachoitif mitzvah" on the right side, a little bit upwards. Kechoitif mitzvah, or mitzvah avad. He got the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah by buying it. Avali kasa, but if he would have written it, have a mitzvah yisei tvei. It's a much better mitzvah to write it, but you still yoyt to the mitzvah through buying a Sefer Torah, a ready-made Sefer Torah.
Why it said halokeach? Lokeach is taken. I say hakoneh. He's buying. He went to the shuk and he bought one.
Same thing.
Why lokeach? No, lokeach is it's also stealing.
No.
So it could, even if he didn't buy, if he took one from the shuk. So now, someone gave it to him, right? You're right. Even if someone gave it to him. So Rashi explains what is the expression kechoitim and some shuk means that it's not the best way of doing the mitzvah.
Right.
You just like instead of doing the mitzvah yourself, you grabbed one in the shuk. Kosvei, if you wrote it yourself, Maila olav akasav kilu kibim mahar Sinai. If it's as if you makabel it from the Torah considers if you were makabel it yourself from Har Sinai. Amar Rav Sheishes, imigia afilu ois achas. If you corrected even one letter, you fixed it up. Maila olav kilu kosvei. It's as if you wrote it.
This is why when they have Achnasat Sefer Torah, you buy one letter. You write it down.
Now, Toisus explains, Toisus im, the third to last Toisus of the Amud, im he gia by filosach. So someone is magia, he fixes even one letter. Pirush, what is this talking about? You bought a Sefer Torah shalak min hashuk. You bought or you took a Sefer Torah from the market. But you didn't just you bought a Sefer Torah that was puzzle that needed to be fixed. It's not considered like a choitiv mitzvah, that it's not considered the proper way of doing the mitzvah. Why? Because it wasn't a mitzvah that was sitting in the shuk.
It was pasul.
It was an aveda by the chaver, the one who was holding on to it. It's an aveda. Why is it an aveda? Someone who you're not allowed as an isser to hold on to a sefer Torah which is not correct. Because someone might come to learn from it and it's mistaken. Yeah, you can't mash a sefer she'eni muga. You have 30 days to correct it. And someone who does this, he buys a Sefer Torah which can be corrected. It's not totally possible, it can be corrected. And he fixes Magiyat, Mailan al Kasav, Kilo Kasvei. It's as if he wrote it. Mipi Rebbe, this has heard this from his Rebbe. Now, so we see here that there's a mitzvah Ksiva Sefer Torah, you should write it yourself or commission someone to write it. If not that, you buy a Sefer Torah, or you get a Sefer Torah b'matana, and you magi it. And the lowest level is where you buy a ready-made Sefer Torah, where you still mekayem the mitzvah, but it's not the best way to do the mitzvah. because he had no part in writing in it, no part in fixing it. That's what the Gemara says. Now, let's take a look, the next Amud. Lahalacha, by the way, just want to tell you that Lahalacha, the Ramah Paskins, I didn't make a copy of that piece, but the Ramah Paskins, that is someone, that when the Gemara said that someone was lekeach Sefer Torah mashok, is kichoytev, lekeach Sefer Torah, kichoytev mitzvah mashok, Rashi learned that he got a mitzvah, just not the highest level. The Nemuki Yosef, another one of the Rishonim, also learns like Rashi. The Ramah says his own psak. He says, if someone buys Sefer Torah, you're not Yoitza. You're not Yoitza the mitzvah at all. Shaila is where the Ramah got it from. So a lot of the Achreinim don't agree with the Ramah. They feel that we have to follow Rashi and the Nemuki Yosef. This is what the Taz says clearly, and the Gra says that that's the Iker of the Vilna. But the Ramah does hold that you're not Yoitza. They hold that you are Yoitza like Rashi and Nemuki Yosef, just it's not the best way to do the mitzvah. Now, there's a big shaila. Today, we don't see that it's a mitzvah in the Torah, one of the Teyag mitzvahs in the Torah. We don't see that people are makbid in doing it. People are makbid in writing it, even in buying a Sefer Torah, or in being magia Sefer Torah. Now you could say, okay, not everyone has the money to afford it, right? Ein lechanami, but you know what? There's a lot of people that could afford it, and we don't see that there are people are dafke. There are certain people, certain families want to make in honor of someone in the family, so they make, but it's not like they're doing it like a chiyuv. They're doing it as a nice thing to do it, l'zecher, l'kovet. But we don't find that there's like an urgency, it's one of the tayag mitzvah in the Torah. You have to put on tefillin every day, put on mezuzah. There's a mitzvah writing a Sefer Torah. It's one of the mitzvahs in the Torah.
But it's different. When you write Sefer Torah and you put it in Aaron, they're reading it once a week or once a month.
Yeah, you could keep it in your house.
Probably that time they used to learn it. They used to write Sefer Torah and learn from it. Nowadays they don't learn. You open.
And not only that, but it's not really that expensive to write the Osher Sefer Torah if you eliminate all these extra and super halachic chumrot. Like, let's say, for instance, if you don't have tagim, or let's say like your shin, if you just simply write this, that's kosher. You don't have to have
so we don't see people doing that either. We don't see people doing that either.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. That's something straight into the kasha. Now, I always had a kasha on this whole business, because the Rambam, when he lists this as being one of the Taryag mitzvot, he's contradicting himself. Because in Sefer HaMitzvot, when he writes in the Klalim of what count as Taryag mitzvot, he says clearly that anything which is not peshat, but it's a drash or something like that, cannot be counted in Taryag mitzvot. And this thing of Kitbul Lechemet Shira Azot, the peshat, is that God said to Moshe, write this down, this Shira, write this down.
Right, but you can't write the Shira for itself.
Oh, no, well, no, hold it. But this expansion of it to indicate that it implies this whole Sefer Torah, that's really a drash. It's not really Peshat. The Peshat is
Could be not considered a drash.
Moshe, write this down.
That's not a drash.
Who says you're talking about the whole Sefer Torah?
No, that's because you can't write the Sefer Torah, each parasha for itself. You can't write it by itself.
So maybe it's just a mitzvah to write down for Moshe specifically at that time, to write down this Shira.
No, it says it should be an aid for Bnei Yisrael.
The same thing for
okay, we're getting off the topic. Lamaisa is, we have to understand, we know it's a mitzvah, it's brought in Shulchan Aruch, it's the Rambam writes it. We need to understand why we see today people are not makbid to keep this mitzvah. There should be some type of effort that people should be. As soon as a person becomes bar mitzvah, he has his chiyuv. So if the family is a wealthy family, instead of all the other gifts for the bar mitzvah boy, maybe instead of the hall and the band, they should buy him they should have him be Magia Sefer Torah or commission a Sefer to write from a Sefer Torah. So we don't see any drive for this. Not only that, we've seen many Gedolei Yisrael that didn't have a Sefer Torah. Many big people didn't have a Sefer Torah.
Most of them.
Right? So L'maisa, the Rosh, the father, one of the ways of understanding this is the Rosh, the father of the Torah, says a certain statement about the mitzvah of writing the Sefer Torah, which, according to certain interpretations of what he said, could explain to us the minhag, why we see people not big magnet. So let's take a look. The Torah, I didn't make a copy of the Rosh itself, but the Torah quotes his father. Over here, we have in the middle of the page, it's the Torah, which says Beis, right on the top. Beis, v'kasav adoini avi haraza. My father, the Rosh, Rabbeinu Asher, writes, Shezeh, this mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah, le'nemar l'doros harishonim, was only said for the doros harishonim, the early generations. Shekois in Sefer Torah v'leimdim ba. Like you were saying before, those generations, they would write the Sefer Torah and they would actually learn it. That would be their personal Sefer. They didn't have Chumashim. That was how they learned. Haval nowadays, Shekois in Sefer Torah, when one writes a Sefer Torah, they place it inside in the shul to read from it. So now, in our generation, the mitzvah changes. The mitzvah says, I'll call Yisrael, Asher Yadei Masegis, any person who has the ability, the money, Lichtev Chamishei Chum Shetorah, there was no printing press then, should write the 5 books of Torah, Mishnah, Gemara, Perushim, and the Perushim of the Gemara. The Hagis Ben, in order he should be able to learn them, who? He, Ubanav, and his children. Ki mitzvahs ksiva Sefer Torah, what is the main point of writing a Sefer Torah? It isn't just to have a Sefer Torah, it's kedei l'meba, in order to learn from it. D'chsiv, v'lamda es isnei Yisrael, sima b'fihim. V'yidei ha-Gemara pesha, through Gemara and the Perushim of Gemara, Yeda Pirush HaMitzvahs v'adin al-borim, a person will know the explanation of the mitzvahs and the halachas properly. L'chein, therefore, hein ha-svarim she'adam mitzvah l'kaisim. These are the svarim that a person is commanded to write. Now, Ad Kan, Menegea to our Imin. So he quotes this Rosh, which seems to say that the mitzvah changed. The mitzvah used to be writing the Sefer Torah, but now, when you write a Sefer Torah, you put it inside the Aron. You put it in shul. So what's going to be inactive to learn it anyways? And the whole point of the mitzvah is to learn. So says the Rosh, the mitzvah now is a mitzvah saseh to write Seforim, to write Chumash, Mishnah, Gemara, Perushim. Now, in this Rosh, there's 2 interpretations. One pshat is the way I just said, and we'll see it inside of Rishim soon. Another pshat in the Rosh is no. The Rosh never meant to say that nowadays there's no longer a mitzvah of writing Sefer Torah. That can't change. That's the mitzvah in the Torah. How could he change that? The Rosh meant to say, to add, not only do you have to write a Sefer Torah, but you should also have Chumash and Gemara and Mishnayos. So this is a big machlekes hapaiskim. Let's take a look at the Beit Yosef, right away on the left side. He says, right away on the top of the page, he quotes the first 3 lines where he quotes from the Torah. And then he says, Behilchas Sefer Torah, he quotes where the Rosh wrote this. He wrote this in his Hilchas Sefer Torah. V'yesh l'tmaya. Everyone sees? V'yesh l'tmaya. Heir ba ha'rosh. How could the Rosh come? Lifter to exempt la'adam in mitzvahs ksiva Sefer Torah. Exempt you from the mitzvah writing the Sefer Torah. La'chlif, and to exchange it with Chumashim, Mishnayos, Gemaras, Perushim. Sharei loy tal atam achilik ben adoris v'shem deris halalu. The Rosh did not say that there's some type of difference between the early generations and these generations. The only difference is that in these generations, people don't learn from the Sefer Torah. They place it in shul to read it during Kriya. So, if the Rosh felt that there's an issue over here, there's something wrong with people are doing with putting it in the Aron, so why suddenly tell us, write Chumashim and everything? What he should say is, we should stop this minig. People shouldn't be putting their Sefer Torahs in the shul. People should keep the Sefer Torahs in the house to learn from it. That's what he should caution. That's what he should caution people to do. In Cain, he should have said, "Shagam achshav chayavim lichti Sefer Torah v'yumul debahem, kishem shalom deis v'shaynim." How could he just exempt you from a mitzvah? The Rosh should have said, "No, you see, people are not learning from Sefer Torahs anymore. You know what? They're not doing a mitzvah of the Torah. They should not give the Sefer Torahs as donations to the shul. Should keep it at home. There should always be Sefer Torah for the community Sefer Torah for the call. But people should have their own Sefer Torahs and they should learn from it." Why does the Rosh suddenly come and say you have no more mitzvah anymore today? Just because people stopped learning from it, so the mitzvah is no longer a mitzvah anymore? How could the mitzvah of the Torah suddenly change because people stopped learning? Lakach nirali, therefore, seems to me to be a different pshat in the Rosh. Shleiba al chadish lanu chiv ksivas chumashim mishnayis l'gemaras perishayim v'isim michirasim. He only came to let us know, to make a chidush, that there's a chiv, an obligation to write chumashim mishnayis l'gemaras, and you're not allowed to sell them. Isim michirasim, meaning if you don't have the, you're not supposed to buy. You're supposed to keep yourself the copies, not supposed to sell them away. He wanted that is also included in the mitzvah ksiva Sefer Torah, which is a yoiser mitzvah melechtiv Sefer Torah, and that's more of a mitzvah than writing a Sefer Torah and leaving it in shul. But the fact that a person should write a Sefer Torah in order that he should read it, pshita, the gamma idna zau ikar ki mitzvah say. Pasha that's the ikar mitzvah say. You're doing exactly what he did in the early generations. That's what's wrong with that. Kasa ben Yeruchim was a Talmud of the Rosh. Writes al Divrei HaRosh. He writes in these words. The Go'onim already who preceded the Rishonim already wrote like the Rosh wrote. So B'si Yosef is interpreting the Torah, the Rosh, that he never came to mevatel mitzvah sasei. He came to add that there is a mitzvah today. That people are not learning it in shul. There's a mitzvah say to make sure that you also write chumashim and gemaras to learn. But he never came to subtract a mitzvah from the Torah.
Is that in open? The same thing. Did you have a mitzvah before? No, you have a mitzvah
exactly.
for writing this.
He only came to add. Comes out, based on the Beis Yosef, we're back to square one. We don't have any explanation why today.
Why don't we do it?
Today. And the Bach also learns this way. And we'll see that the Prisha and the Drisha on the bottom of the page don't learn that way.
Where was the printing press?
It was only later.
After all these reshapes.
Only a couple hundred years ago, that's it.
14
Beis Yosef.
Till then everything was like for him.
Right.
Beis Yosef times, I think there was a...
Right. So I'd be curious to see how it fit in.
Now, they don't discuss it, the main place. Now... He does not like the Prisha, does not like this. He said, let's take a look at the Prisha, Ois Tes, the second column of the Prisha, Ois Tes. Kosav Moiri Verabi, my Rebbe, the Marshal of Shlomo Luria, writes, Ufi Dvarov, Sheikar Mailak Lidlumad Lachedim, Te'elas Limad Lachedim. According to the way the Beis Yosef is wording it, comes out the main purpose of writing a Sefer Torah is in order you should be able to learn with other people in it. Imkein al ma'ar chacham agia filay zachas kilu kibi ma'ar Sinai v'koina oisa kilu choytev mitzvah nashuk. Why did the Torah, the Gemara, said that someone who buys the Sefer Torah is not on the same level as someone who edits the Sefer Torah? What's the difference? If the purpose is learning, why should it bother me how the person got a hold of the Sefer Torah? If he wrote it, if he edited it, or he boldly bought it. The main thing is the learning.
Mm-hmm. And not even you even.
The main mila should be you should buy a fixed Sefer Torah. Why should I want to say buy one that's not fixed and corrected? Buy a fixed Sefer Torah. That's the best thing. I bought a mitzvah, a complete mitzvah. So must be v'gam hagol lo'hoisem elos kol kach l'machma shumailas ksiva Sefer Torah matzak kedushasa. The only reason why correcting a Sefer Torah is special is because it has to do with writing the Sefer Torah. It's how the kedusha of a Sefer Torah. It's how the kedusha of writing a Sefer Torah. So basically, he feels that the ikr, that the halacha is that he brings from the Marshal to argue with the Beis Yosef. Let's take a look further in the Drisha, where he's very clear about it. The same author wrote both Pirushim. Mitzvah say a kol yisol shiyadim aseges Pirush gamza b'chlal essay. The quotes first to Beis Yosef. Beis Yosef understands the Rosh that even writing Chumashim is included in the essay. V'hamuktam avol hamitzvah essay the Sefer Torah gam kim mekayem medus. The mitzvah essay of writing a Sefer Torah still remains Beis Yosef. That's the Beis Yosef. L'fiyan is daiti shezo doiche gadol ufarish kain das harash v'rabbeinu. To me, it seems to be a great stretch to learn like that pshat in the Rosh and the Torah. Our Rebbe, the Torah, who were learning a Sefer now. Shesasmu divrayim, they didn't write that because of the Zaloi Nemal Days V'Shonim. He wrote clearly it only applies to the early generations. Shekoyis and Sefer Torah v'Loim them. Aval ha'ina, but now it's not the case. Pirush Beis Yosef, according to Beis Yosef, hachi avalim. This is how the Torah should have written. V'Doris and V'Shonim loy hayim u'choyavim lichtev ela Sefer Torah. Early generations, they're only obligated to write a Sefer Torah. You're also obligated in buying and writing other Seforim. Furthermore, from the fact that the Torah concludes because of the that these are the Seforim that a person is obligated to write, seems mashma elu Sefer Torah. These are the mitzvah today and not the Sefer Torah. Says furthermore, zil basataima. Go based on the reasoning. Hashem is barat siva lichta Sefer Torah. Why? Kedei luma miteicha, in order to learn from it. Nim sevederes halalo shem lemedim miteicha. No one learns from it anymore. Leka mitzvah say shall call them Yisrael. So this is what the Prisha learns. The Prisha and the Drisha, they learn the Rosh difference. There are two ways of learning the Rosh. Let's take a look now what's the Halach in Shulchan Aruch. The Torah Beis Yosef precedes the Shulchan Aruch. What does it say in Shulchan Aruch? The Mechaber brings, the Beis Yosef brings the Lashon of the Rosh. Siv Beis, right before it says Siv Reish Ayin Aleph in the middle. Siv Beis, the Mechaber Ha'idna, nowadays, mitzvah lichtev chamisha chumshei Torah mishnah gemara pirishem. But the Yom one should not sell them in loyal and Torah for the purpose of teaching yourself Torah. At least you should get married. Shouldn't sell it. Clearly brings that it's a mitzvah to write chumshei Torah. So he brings the rush, but he doesn't over here. He doesn't get into the pshat. The whole thing, whether it's also a mitzvah to write the Sefer Torah.
You're allowed to give it to people or to someone, not to sell it.
The same thing. You need the Seforim. You need to have. You need it.
No,
if you have extra, if you have extra, it's different. But if I don't have extra,
library.
No, but if you have extra, if you need it, you need a chumash. You can't give the chumash. You need a shas gemara. You can't.
I have 10 chumashim in the house. I don't need 10 chumashim.
You have extra, right? You have extra. But if you don't have extra.
And incidentally, it's not correct to say that in time of Chazal they did not have stam machine, but except for kosher Sefer Torah, because they did have, like in Gittin there, when it describes how various things, like it's clear that they did have.
At a certain point, the Issa was taken off. At a certain point, I don't know those dinim, but at a certain point there was a time in history where the Issa of writing a Sefer, the Sefer Torah had to be written as a full Sefer Torah was taken off. They were allowed to write as separate parshiyos.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm saying like this whole argument seems to be based upon this hanacha that in the olden days they had to learn from kosher Sefer Torah. But that's not the case, because they did have the stam machine which were not kosher.
Mishnah Berurah says you could do one sefer at a time. Sefer Bereshis can be one chelik on its own.
And by the way, I missed that important piece of the Prisha. That was really the Prisha I wanted to read. Was in letter Ches, Ois Ches, he says, here is where he says, quoting the Prisha. This is what the Torah meant to say. Mitzvah say namar dafke be'elu v'loy v'sefer Torah. Dafke b'yimei in those days she learned Torah shabal peh shalem in aksad. They would learn Torah shabal peh by heart, not written. Kim al peh. Then are you tzrichim lum v'sefer Torah ham to yeges kilchasov to yekes v'chasedis v'yisedis piskatayim. They would need to learn from a sefer Torah that was written properly with the crowns, with making sure with everything written properly. All of these, all the tagin, the crowns on top, are in order to remind us of the details of Torah Shal Peh. Like we say in Menachos, the previous block from what we were learning, the previous Amid, every crown he would learn out many halachas from it. Therefore, those days, but in our days, we're not on the same level anymore. Rama Chazal said already, if we're not going to write Torah Shabal Peh down, we're going to lose the Torah. They wrote down the Talmud in a book. And those days also there was an issa to write chumashim, if not writing it like a sefer Torah. In Cain kol sifreim ayudayim l'sefer Torah. Mashenke was anenu shenasim laheter lichtev Seforim dafen. You're allowed to write each sefer for itself. In Cain, we don't need any more to look into the sefer Torah. We have Torah Shema written out. Lama lanu zalzel v'koi sefer Torah l'china. Why should we be mezalzel in the cover of sefer Torah for no reason? No one needs a sefer Torah today. There's no need for it. Those days, they would actually learn from it and understand, derive the Torah Shepeh directly from the Psukim. Learn out from the letters and from the words and from the crowns. But today we have Torah Shepeh written out. It's all written out. So the Sefer Torah is in shul for Kriyas HaTorah. But everyone on their own should use the Chamashim which they have and all the other Seforim. So we have in a Machlokes where the Beis Yosef and the Bach learn that there is still a mitzvah say to write a Sefer Torah. The Rosh only came to add. However, the Drisha and the Prisha learn that no, today the mitzvah has changed. The mitzvah is no longer to have a Sefer Torah, the mitzvah is to have Chumashim.
In that time, the Melech used to write Sefer Torah. He used to read from it, learn from it.
The Melech wrote, even had a second one.
Two.
The Chiddush of the Melech was he had two.
He was learning with it?
It was with them all the time.
Yeah, he was learning from it. Yeah. He always had it in front of him to keep him remember Yirat Hashem. He should never keep his eyes off the Sefer Torah. The king is the one who he needs to stay in the high madrega, and all his decisions. Every Jew is not supposed to forget Hashem for a minute, but if the Melech forgets Hashem, it's a very big danger. So now in Shulchan Aruch, the Poskim again are arguing about this. The Taz feels, the Taz on the left side, the Taz says by the letter Dalit, right on the top of the page, in the left column, Eidna mitzvah kain kasav hatorah b'shem. This is what the Torah wrote in the name of the Rosh. Or Pirish Beis Yosef, the Beis Yosef explained to the Baal Liftei Sefer Torah. He did not come to exempt us from the mitzvah of Sefer Torah. Ad Rabbi Yesh Gam Lanu Lichter Lindenba. We should also write and learn it. The Rosh came to say she is mitzvah Gam b'ksiv Seforim elu. However, brings a Taz, a Drisha Choylek, the Drisha argues on him, the Beis Yosef. The aim Lanu Lilvim is Sefer Torah. We should not learn from Sefer Torah l'zalzel b'kvoita. They were forced to learn Sefer Torah. She also lifted down the dafim. They're not allowed to write chumashim out. They're only allowed to write a complete Sefer Torah. They're also expound on the crowns. It's not that way today. There's no more than Sefer Torah. That's the Prisha. Says the Taz, how do I paskin? If you read the language of the Rosh, it seems more like the Drisha interpreted, that there is no more mitzvah. He says Deir Shainim was one way, and now Deir these days is not. Seems like the Drisha is correct. However, in the ending, I can't agree with the Drisha in Svara, because the Kol Makim Nechoyin Divrei Beis Yosef, because his question the Beis Yosef has is very strong. How do we say that this mitzvah suddenly changed because generations went by? A person's going to come and say, I don't have to do this mitzvah because times have changed. So the Taz, I can't accept it. So if I'm reading the language of Lashon, I will go with the Drisha. But Mikoyach, this kasha that Beis Yosef has, I can't learn like that. However, the Shach does feel, in the right column, the Shach does feel that the Iker is like the Rosh, and not like the Beis Yosef. Although he says there are poskim that disagree with him, but the Shach feels that the Iker halacha is that there is no more mitzvah to write. You see in the right column, I won't have to read over again the whole, he quotes the whole Prisha in the beginning. In the middle, he writes v'chein nira Iker by a period. There's a mitzvah say, the line starts with mitzvahs. V'chein nira Iker karash, the Iker halacha seems like the Rosh. He quotes the Prisha until now. U'deloi ke Beis Yosef, not unlike the Beis Yosef. U'bach, shekaz they wrote, Shadas HaRosh is the Vade Iker mitzvah Sefer Ksiva Sefer Torah Afilu was manazah. Sheish gam ki mitzvah tichem min shechum Torah Mishnah Shas Pirishem. Yugam HaTorah Zov the Levush Vadani Melech Reishach Sefer Torah Nimshchu der Beis Yosef. There are other poskim, the Levush and the Tosis Yom Tiv, who they also learned like the Beis Yosef. So the Shach feel that the Ikra halach is like the Rosh, although he's moida that there are a number of big authorities that did hold like the Beis Yosef.
Now this whole thing seems to be predicated on the assumption that Darshina Tamei Dekra.
So we don't hold to that. We don't hold the Shin time of the Kra.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So since we don't hold from it,
what's going on?
So
it's a good kasha.
So how do they come up with this idea?
It's a good kasha. Meaning, according to the Prisha and the Shach, how do they deal with the kasha of the Beis Yosef that L'chora were changing with Semen HaTorah? So this is a kasha that some Acharim try to deal with. are different ways how to go about it. First, I want to tell you that the Rosh is the only one that makes this comment. What we know, the Rambam here, the bottom of the page, the Rambam doesn't mention a word about this. Any difference today? Then he just quotes Mitzvah Aseh Al Kol Ish Yisrael Lichtev Sefer Torah La'atzmei, the bottom of the page, the Shulchan Aruch page. Shenemar Ata Kis Lechem Az Hashira Kiloymar Kisu Lechem Torah Sheish B'Sirazu. Write the Torah which has in it this song of Azinu. She'ein Koyisen as a Torah Parashat. One is not allowed to write a Torah each parsha for itself. So when the Torah says Kis Lechem Az Hashira, write Parashat Azinu, you have to write the whole Torah. Even if you have a Yerusha from your father, still in all, it's not that you're not yoy to the mitzvah. Mitzvah lichtim mishaloi. Mitzvah to write your own. You write with your own hand, and you keep them ha'asinai. You don't know how to write. You can hire a sofer to write for you. If he wrote the entire thing. So Rambam doesn't mention all this whole concept of any shinuyim. The Rosh is a chiddush, and again, the Rosh itself is up for interpretation what the Rosh meant. But according to the Prisha and according to the Shach, that feel that the interpretation of the Rosh is that the mitzvah say changed, it's a very good kasha what you're asking. That l'chora, how could we say the mitzvah say changed? Now,
let's go back to the first question. Why today we don't have, you don't see people writing Sefer there?
Let's take a look at the Shagas Aryeh. Let's take a look at one of the big Achroinim, the Shagas Aryeh. The beginning, the entire first paragraph, he is quoting the Torah and the Beis Yosef. Right? And the next second paragraph says, "V'chein ner li'ikar." I think the ikar is like the Beis Yosef. But just because we're not learning the Sefer Torah doesn't mean that you're exempt from the mitzvah. Is the reason for mitzvah Sefer Torah because of learning? If you had a Sefer Torah in any which way possible, since you're able to learn from it, you should be mekayem the mitzvah. The whole point is learning. Why did Rav say in Sanhedrin that even though you have a Yerusha of the Sefer Torah, mitzvah it's a mitzvah the person to write himself. Why? If he has a Sefer Torah. So obviously the mitzvah is not just a limit. A person has to have his own Sefer Torah that you yourself commissioned to write. Even to zau ikar mitzvah, since that's the ikar mitzvah in lachalik ben deris hakoyin leilu. The Torah would have said the mitzvah is that you should always have something to learn with. Okay, so understand, you're saying then there was a Sefer Torah, and now that we can write Torah Shabbat down, mitzvah is to learn whatever you can learn with. But that's not the mitzvah. Haraya, we find that if you're yoresh a Sefer Torah, you're not yoresh to the mitzvah. Why I have what to learn with? Obviously, the mitzvah is to actually write a Sefer Torah. With this, we push off the prisha, maybe a shach that the shach brings. The daf can be named daf in those days. She learned about pal. You tzrichim lo misever Torah. Aber zman azeh shenasen lo heter licht the Seforim dafim dafin. Kolech v'vnei atzmei. Imkein lama he quotes the Rosh, the prisha I'm saying, until the second to last line of that paragraph. Ad kan. The last of this whole prisha I don't agree with. The Imkein, it goes back to my kasha I said before. If your father left you Sefer Torah, and my mitzvah to b'shaloi, why is that mitzvah to write the Sefer Torah? Obviously, the mitzvah is not just to learn. The mitzvah is to have your own written Sefer Torah. Write your own Sefer Torah. However, it says the Shagas Aryeh, I have another method of way of exempting us from the mitzvah say of Sefer Torah. I don't agree with the method of the Prisha. The Prisha and the Shach are pasha trying to change the mitzvah saying the Torah. I have another way. In Torah there's something called chaseris and yiseris. Chasa v'yatir. Sometimes we are supposed to add a vav in, sometimes we don't have a vav. Sometimes Bas Sukkos is with 2 vav, sometimes with 1 vav. Matzos is with a vav without a vav. Arein is with a vav without a vav. Chaseris, Yiseris. The Gemara says already that we are no longer bucky. We don't know no longer bucky exactly which words are supposed to have the vav or not. So the halacha is if a Sefer Torah is missing even 1 letter, it's not a kosher Sefer Torah. So if so, today that we don't have any more of the bekiyas and exactly when we're supposed to have the vavs and when not, which words are chasa, which ones are yatir, so I can't be mekayem to write the Sefer Torah. It's not going to be a kosher Sefer Torah.
You don't know how to write it.
Yeah. By the way, Agav, I'm just saying a side note, the Rambam holds that all the halachas you're allowed to have kriyas hatorah in the shul you're allowed to read from a pasuk of Sefer Torah, and you're allowed to make a brach on it. All the dinim of having a kosher Sefer Torah only apply to the mitzvah ksiva Sefer Torah, but kriya Sefer Torah, Chazal were not required to have a kosher Sefer Torah for ksiva Sefer Torah. It's a mechudesh tekei Rambam. The Rambam writes in the tshuva of his. And the Rambam held that you could take out the Sefer Torah, Apostle Sefer Torah, and read it, because Chazal were not koveya that they have to dafka read from a kosher Sefer Torah. The kosher Sefer Torah was for the mitzvah say of ksiva Sefer Torah. Kriya Torah, we don't apostle. We don't hold it the Rambam l'chatchila, but the Yeved, the Rambam sheet is used when it comes. Let's say someone chas v'shalom, we find the middle Kriya Torah Sefer Torah is apostle. What do? Okay. We don't go back to the beginning of the parsha. Why don't we go back to the beginning of the parsha? Because we rely with the Yeved on the sheet of the Rambam. That even though the Sefer Torah is possible, we don't go back. We don't allow you to continue reading the Sefer Torah.
Right.
We tell you have to take out another Sefer Torah. Mm-hmm. The shaila is only machlokes is whether you should make a bracha
and the second
on the first Sefer Torah, make a bracha, and then take out another Sefer Torah, make another aliyah. Should he finish his off aliyah in the Sefer Torah, or should he wait and finish off the aliyah and make the bracha on the next Sefer Torah? That's the machlokes. But we don't. No one goes and reads back the parasha from the beginning. Now we just figured out the Sefer Torah was no good. The answer is we're relying on that Rambam. This is a side note. We're relying on the Rambam that. But the Yevid, we're relying on the sheet of the Rambam that it's a apostle Sefer Torah is kosher for kriyas Torah, and all the halachas of having a kosher Sefer Torah were only written, are only there for the purpose of mitzvah ksiva Sefer Torah.
What we are doing Lemaisa, the final soul.
With the bracha?
Yeah, make another bracha on the second Sefer Torah. We don't make a third Hashanah on the bracha, but you're making a bracha on the second one.
Mishnah Berurah goes into what happens if you only have one Sefer Torah and there's a
you don't make the other bracha, the last bracha.
I don't remember the dinim. It's machlokes. I don't remember the dinim. It's clearly in the Shari Ephraim. There's a machlokes about what you do. It's a halacha you have to know.
Hopefully it never happened.
Rav and Eshul will have to know the din.
According to the Rambam, right? If you have the Sefer Torah as a pasul, you're allowed to continue reading.
Not only continue, you're allowed to l'chatchila take it out and make a bracha.
Okay. Now they didn't have another Sefer Torah. Are you allowed to take regular chumash?
Yeah.
And read it as you're reading the Torah?
I think the Rambam says chumash even also. I have to remember. If I'm not mistaken, he holds it would even apply to chumash. We won't rely on the Rambam for that.
No, in those days, they didn't have books like we have today. Everything
was rolled.
Was scrolls.
Yeah, okay.
But even then, like I said, even in those days, they had chumashim, which
but it's still a chumash. It didn't have the kedusha of the Sefer Torah.
Sefer Torah.
Right.
It was just like somebody wrote it out, like without conforming to.
So basically, the Shagasai says like this. I can take away the mitzvah Sefer Torah today from a different direction. I don't like the direction the Prish and Shach are going. They want to just remove the mitzvah entirely today. I say there's still a mitzvah today, but we can't actually fulfill it. Even the days of the Meiroyim already, they were not baki in Chaser and Chsedes Yisedis. Keda Amaleb Yosef la Abaye, like Rabbi Yosef said to Abaye in Parakama de Kedushin, Inu, they, the early Chachamim became Bechaseres Yiseres, and we, Loi Bekinam. Hooray, Halach is Sefer Shechasa, yes, Afilo Yisachas Psula. Im Kenim Bideno Lakayim Mitzvah.
Just because we don't know, so we can make a mitzvah.
Yeah? Now,
The Rambam wrote the Sefer Torah by himself.
now you're going to ask me a question. Rava lived in the times of the Gemara, and Rava tells us a halacha that we quoted before in Sanhedrin, that if someone had a Sefer Torah passed down from his father, he's not Yoitza. So what's he telling us the halacha for? It's not Negeya. In times of the Meirayim already, they didn't know the Chseres. So there's no halachas of Sefer Torah. He says, you're right. Rava was just telling you halachas that were Negeya in the past. Just like we learn Kachim, we learn Karbanis, we learn Dinim, it's part of the Torah. You get a mitzvah limit at Torah, but it's not halacha l'maisa. Not because the mitzvah was noyeg in the days of Rava. No. She's just teaching you halacha. Can I say the Kachim? It's like you're learning Karbanis. It wasn't Negei anymore. The Gamin and Mishum, we learn it because the Rosh Kabbalah Schar. You learn Torah and you get Schar for it. Anyways, he continues on to say that still more midrabanan is an inyan of writing a Sefer Torah. Not min Torah, but midrabanan, there would still be a chiv to write a Sefer Torah. And this is what the Rosh meant. The Rosh meant to differentiate between the early generations and later generations was in midrabanan. In midrabanan. The early generations where they actually read from the Sefer Torah, even the Sefer Torah is really possible. All our Sefer Torah is really apostle. Said the Shagas Aryeh, then there was a chiyuv midrabanan for everyone to write their own Sefer Torah. But today, when people know that you're allowed to, when people no longer use the Sefer Torah in their house, they put it inside the Aron. The mitzvah midrabanan is no longer there to write a Sefer Torah, and the mitzvah midrabanan changes and becomes to have chumashim and gemaras written.
So Minat Torah is the same?
Minat Torah never changed. The whole Rush was talking about the Dimid Rabbanan. Minat Torah, there's no longer any mitzvah. There is a mitzvah, we can't fulfill it anymore. What the Rush meant to say, in the early generations, they still wrote Sefer Torahs because it's an Inyan Midrabanan to write a Sefer Torah. But what that was then when they actually used the Sefer Torah. Now they don't actually use the Sefer Torah, so even Midrabanan is no longer a chiyuv to write the Sefer Torah. Midrabanan. But in the Minat Torah, you can never change it. So this is the sheet of the Shagas Aryeh. So comes out Lamaisa today. We have already two explanations how to say how we are potter from the mitzvah Sefer Torah. One option is by going with the Prisha and the Shach, by saying that the Rosh held, however we understand how the Rosh did it, but the Rosh held that the mitzvah Minat Torah is no longer applicable today. Times changed. We don't use the Sefer Torah anymore, so therefore it's no longer applicable. Pisei doesn't understand it, the Shagas Aryeh doesn't understand it, but the Prish and the Shach did learn that way. So one way is to say the minig became to learn, to rely on this interpretation of the Rosh, and that's that people are no longer medayik, and especially because we don't have money, and it's costly, so therefore people were not medayik anymore in it. Another way is today we can learn like the Shagas Aryeh, that we don't know the Chaseris and the Yiseris. And by the way, the Chassam Sofer asked, someone wrote to some Sofer Akasha, how come we don't make a bracha when we do mitzvah ksiva Sefer Torah? For a mitzvah Minat Torah, you should make a bracha.
Because you can't finish the whole thing in one shot.
So one pshat was, but this Talmud his wrote to him was, it's a long time. It takes a long time to write.
Make it by the last pasuk.
So he says, make it the last pasuk. The only problem is, he says, that you don't know, maybe there was a mistake in the Sefer Torah. You have to check the Sefer Torah first. So what are you going to do? You're going to finish the Sefer Torah.
Check it.
Then you're going to check it. By the time you checked it, now I realize, if I see it's kosher, that I realize that it was already kosher a while ago. So now I can't make the bracha anymore, because now it didn't become kosher.
It was all the time kosher.
It was all the time kosher. He said, that's not a good enough answer. You know why, some Sefer? Because I have a way out. Don't write the last words, La'ini Kol Yisrael. Wait over there. Check the whole Sefer Torah. Now I know the whole thing's kosher. I have to just write these words, say the bracha now, and finish it.
We don't do it.
He says, like when you build a fence around the house, it takes time to build a fence. When are you going to make the bracha? Maybe it took you a few days to make the fence. When are you going to make the bracha? On the roof? He says you make the bracha in the last knock, the last nail, and you make the bracha. But the mitzvah Sefer Torah could say the same thing. Elamais Tzachsam Sefer, he goes similar logic of the Shagasari used. Shagasari was trying to use logic to say that we're no longer chayvus in Sefer Torah. Some Sefer said we don't know chaseris and yiseris, so how can you make a bracha on it? How can you make a bracha on it?
How are we making a bracha bichlal to the Sefer Torah? How do you know which one is this?
The same token.
Good kasha. So first of all, you have the Rambam's pshat, the Rambam says Yolam. But we're not relying on the Rambam, right? The answer is like this: the Minchas Chinuch answers up the Shaila of the Shagasari. The Minchas Chinuch says, we'll say the Vart of the Chinuch, then finish with the Vart of the Rebbe. We'll go to Meir. The Minchas Chinuch slugs up the Shagasari like this. He says, "Eina Chanami." The Gemara says clearly that Anan loy bekina, we're not baki in Chesedis Yisedis. However, there are two types of Chesedis Yisedis. There are two types. There are ones which are ma'akiv, and there are ones which are not ma'akiv, the Torah. There are ones which we actually learn halachas out of. It says sukkahs without a vav, so it's rare. It could be sukkas, one sukkah. So we learn a drush out of it, or we learn from different words. If the vav being there or not being there changes pshat, then now it became lashon rabim or lashon yachid because it said basukos, basukas. If the vav makes a change in the meaning of the word, that is ma'akiv, and that we're still baki today. How can we write tefillin today, mezuzahs today, if we don't know what's chaser yater? So there's no longer any more mitzvah saying that hatorah of tefillin and mezuzahs. We are really baki, says the Minchas Chinuch. We're baki in whatever is ma'akiv. Any vavs, any time it's going to be ma'akiv and change the pshat of the word, the meaning. Those we have the Masorah and we kept it. What we lost, the Masorah we lost was the one that not ma'akiv. For example, Arain. Arain can be written with a vav, without a vav.
Not a single place in Tanakh where Aharon has a vav, not one single place.
No, we have a baki in the Chesedis Yisedis here, but Lamaisa, however, the worst that Minchas Chinuch brings that the worst Sefer Torah is a mole that had with a vav. And he says that whether it had a vav or not, it doesn't make a difference. He not only that, he says Petzua Daka. Petzua Daka, right? We write with an aleph. The Alter Rebbe said to write it with an aleph, the Daka, and some write with a hey.
The rest of the world writes with a hey.
Writes with a hey. What's the halacha? We hold the halacha, both Sefer Torahs are kosher. Which is, we hold if you're writing a Sefer Torah, you should write with an aleph. So a Lubavitcher shul is going to have a Petzua Daka with an aleph.
Right.
But it doesn't make it possible if it doesn't have, because it doesn't change the meaning of the word. It depends what type of Chesedis he says. This is what he says himself to Minchas Chinuch. So the Shagasari is saying there's no longer mitzvah say Ksiv Sefer Torah because we're not baki Chesedis Yisedis. It's not true, he says. We're baki in the Chesedis Yisedis that make a Sefer Torah possible. And the ones that don't make a possible, that we're not baki in.
So the yeshiva who don't make a bracha on Petzua Daka with an aleph are being machmer?
For sure. They have to make a bracha.
I'm not sure if that's correct.
The yeshiva
That in tefillin, there are actually, there are in fact differences between with Chassidut
They would make a
and
bracha.
Yeterot. In the four parts.
I'm not a sofer. I don't
just
know.
don't recall if the differences are in the areas where it would make a difference in the shot or not.
L'sikum, Rabbi Isai. L'sikum. Well, another way to answer, by the way, Shagasari is saying what's going to be with tefillin mezuzahs. You're right. You can answer tefillin mezuzahs and say the tefillin mezuzahs we always kept on writing was a real strong Masorah, so it's much harder for there to be shinuyim.
But there are, in fact.
So the Sefer Torah was easier.
That's one of the things the Gra writes, that if you want to be Yotzi, all the Shitot, you have to wear 64 pairs.
But he
every
didn't.
day.
He
did not. He didn't even wear Rabbeinu Tam to
Right. He only said that if you want to be Yotze every day in tefillin with a batim, with tzur, with everything.
64?
Yeah.
That's exactly. But he meant a lot with different sheets.
The guy in Yerushalayim wearing like 14, 15 tzitzis.
Oh, you're Scheinberg. From Scheinberg, no?
I'm going to go to the minute. Lamaisa, according to this Rosh, Lamaisa that the oil is soymech on the pshat and the rosh of the prish and the shach comes out. The buying Seforim today is a mitzvah same in hatorah. Every house has to have chumash, the Gemara, Mishnah. The shaila is how many does he have to buy? Does he have to have? The Rebbe has a note. He says he's not sure when the Rosh says quotes chumash, Mishnah's, Gemara, and their perushim. What did he mean? Do you have to have all of them, and then, otherwise you're not yoytz to the mitzvah? Or ksiva sefer Torah today? Or if you have one of them, it's enough. It will be enough to have one of those svarim. So l'maisa, but there could be today a mitzvah same in Torah according to that mahalich
to buy it
today. There's one sicha that Rebbe explained the Rosh when very barichis to learn pshat in the minig, like the pshat, like the prish and the shach, that you yoytz to the mitzvah today, a long arichas in it. That's what the minig is based on. But there's another sicha later on that the Rebbe learned that no, l'chora, the Beis Yosef and everyone else didn't want to learn pshat, and all the achreinim didn't want to learn pshat like the prish and the shach, and they held that the Rosh never meant to change the halacha, and you still today have to have a mitzvah. So how are we going to answer up the minig based on that sheet? That today no one writes sefer Torahs. Right. So he said a different word that when a private person makes a sefer Torah, even when he gives it to shul, it still belongs to him. So you're not yoy to the mitzvah nechanami. But when the kihila makes a sefer Torah, the kihila commissions a sefer Torah, then it's kihila that there's a tanai, leiv bezin masaleim, that every yid when he goes up to the sefer Torah and he lanes and he gets an aliyah, that it's his sefer Torah. The Yedaina has a chaylik in the Sefer Torah. Like an esrik, Amol, they weren't able to afford an esrik for everyone. There used to be an esrik hakol. Same as the Sefer Torah hakol. Now esrik also has to belong to you. It has to belong to you the first 2 days. It has to be yours. But how are you yoyt with esrik hakol? Because every single person, when he picks it up, the call made it tonight. Every person, when you pick it up, it belongs to you. The same thing over here. This is a much harder concept to understand. It's a very edele sicha where the Rebbe talks about the concepts of the fact that you have a part in the Sefer Torah. And by the way, there are days that hold, like a B'Kiveiger and other days, that you're not even yoytze with shutfis. If two people own a Sefer Torah together, you're not yoytze in the Sefer Torah. It's a machloikis. So according to the pinga that holds that you're not yoytze with shutfis, so you have to say it's not in a way like your shutif. It's not much like by esrig, where each one has his part. It's his sefer Torah. It gets even more stickier because the mitzvah is not that should be your sefer Torah.
To write.
The mitzvah is to write. So we have to say that the soifer, when the soifer writes the sefer Torah, each person has a chelik that it's kilo he's writing for him. I don't know how it works. I don't know how the mechanism works, but the lumdus works that when you're having an aliyah of the sefer Torah, that shas ma'isa, it's your sefer Torah, and the writing was kilo was for you. Al kapanim, it's all in